Now, here's the problem I face. I created something called ToposText. And the reason I created it was because I wanted certain kinds of information to be findable. It turns out there is a massive amount of information. As I went through the list I posted here, I realized I forgot some key names. I depended heavily for my work on castra.eu, a personal project of a Greek engineer who went through and mapped every ancient castle and every medieval castle and tower in Greece. An amazing work, and he put that online and made it basically shareable. But from the list, I could not have done ToposText without Pleiades, which created the first database of coordinates and place names that I could then link to. At any rate, the information is amazing. So my goal with ToposText was findability, to find every ancient place I could, look, in the Mediterranean, but practically speaking, just in Greece. Every ancient tower, give it coordinates, create a way to get to it. I did that mostly using Google Earth. I also rode my bicycle and walked around a lot and to achieve that. But increasingly, I've been able to call on the amazing resources that I listed, including especially the archaeological Notability, which has become incredible. It would have made, if it had existed 5 years ago, I probably never would have done ToposText because, anyway, so much. But okay, that coordinates plus having easy access to ancient texts indexed in a way that you could find the places being talked about. And then as my library of text grew to be about 800 texts, I wanted better indices, and I wanted to be able to search those texts all at once to find ideas in proximity to each other. But now my goal as I get older and tireder is to make ToposText unnecessary by linking it in to a whole ecosystem of really good digital tools that exist. Okay, anyway, so ToposText had a lot of points. And something that might be worth doing, I created a file, a Google document that has some useful things in it. And there's we'll find the URL and paste it into the chat at the end, perhaps. So anyway, trying to be both broad and also deep. This showing all of the ToposText places in Athens. And I'm showing them here in Google Earth as a reminder that a good, friendly, open digital project should export its data in ways that other people can borrow easily. And the easiest way to do that is a Google Earth file. Google Earth can be read by anyone. The data can be extracted nicely. It can be customized. Anyway, keep that in mind with your data. If you need help writing a script to turn, actually, you can do it. Any GIS program will export as KML or KMZ. And I hope you will consider that and make those files, post them on your site and make them shareable. All right. So now that I'm sort of tired with ToposText, I mean, we will keep it alive as long as I'm standing, and I hope that someone will take it over. But what I would like to see is every excavation, every ancient site in Greece available, findable with good coordinates. And the tool I've chosen for that for now is Wikidata. Wikidata and Wikipedia are accessible by everyone. They are the first thing ordinary people look for. Remember, we are scholars, but Greece is an amazingly rich country whose wealth is its history. And we are trying to share its history, not just with a few of us who already know it, but with a much broader world. And so we need to find the tools to reach other people, and Wikidata, Wikipedia are a way of doing that. So as many things as I can find, creating Wikidata items when they don't exist, when there is a Wikidata item, labeling it properly, fixing the coordinates if they're inadequate, giving it properties that make it findable. And at the same time, going through all of my ToposText texts, going through, say, Strabo, and every time he mentions an ancient authority, I tag that ancient authority, no longer with the random tag I gave it based on the name, but with the Wikidata identity, which means that future people can simply copy paste my text or export the data and have a link to the individual Strabo is talking about. We've had this amazing project doing this with Pausanias. It's almost done, but the results aren't really published yet. But someday, I hope, someday soon, we'll have that. But then we have so many really tantalizing databases now. Objects in museums. Every time you dig an object out of the ground and put it in a museum, you are making the place you dug it out of that much poorer. And the communities of Greece, the villages, I'm very sorry to say, but when I go to somewhere looking for an archaeological site, and I'll go to the Periptero and I'll ask, excuse me, do you know where the Temple of Poseidon is? And the person will often look at me blankly. And finally, I'll go to the Caphaneo and there will be a long discussion and someone will say, oh yeah, there. And maybe the pharmacopoeia will know where it is. But this is tragic. Every community needs to know and be proud of its past. And how do we do that? And we have to make each community part of its past, and Wikidata is one way of doing that. And anyway, I look forward to seeing increasingly the beautiful statues in museums online with the coordinates of their find spots, when, of course, that's not an ancient cemetery. I mean, there are times you cannot give the coordinates, but most of the time you can. And then we create apps that allow augmented reality to bring that statue back to the landscape it was dug from. I see, this amazing work now by the archaeological cadastre. All of those photographs, not every place has them, but they're good photographs when they exist. And I want to find them all now, but I'm not sure I'm allowed to steal them. But I do think that by putting them out there, you are saying they are there to be used. And so that's the crucial issue there. When I say creating a Wikidata object, what I mean is creating a set of organized statements about a place or an object that allows you to know where it is, know where it was, know its basic category, with luck, be able to find pictures of it. But most importantly, go to an authoritative site to learn more about it. And again, that's what I've been working on. I mean, ToposText is not authoritative, really. It's a finding tool. But by turning things into Wikidata, adding links to the Chronique de Fouilles, links to other crucial sites, making some progress there. Something I've done very recently is create a Wikidata item for each ephoria in Greece. It's odd that the ephoreas had not done this themselves, but now that they exist, please find your ephorea and correct it. Give it the name you want it to have, give it the phone number and the email you want it to have, give it the operational history you want it to have. And then, frankly, every ephorea deserves a Wikipedia article too, because they have a fascinating history. And I went back a couple of steps. There's a Wikidata item both for the current ephorea and for the previous one, you know, the third ephorea, and sometimes for the archaeological region of Athens. So I didn't have the strength for all of those. But the job of the people who know this, and I'm a total amateur here, is to enrich that, that resource. As some of you know, Dipylon very bravely gave me a simple spreadsheet of 1,400 places with a coordinate pair and a URL and a name. Each rescue excavation in Athens now has a Wikidata item that links, that gives the ephorea that it excavated it, the dates it was excavated, and a link to the Dipylon site that will take you directly to the map and the good information about it. And that's what I want for the cadaster. Anyway, so here's a wiki, going back a little bit. I'm trying to turn ancient text into Wikisource, that is the English translation of Pausanias, putting it in the Wikimedia universe as a very simple text, but with every place and person tagged with its Wikidata ID. I mean, this is crude linked open data, but it's something anyone can then use and play with. So, and I consider that in the future. Here is a monument, the Choregic monument of Nicias, of which random monument pulled from Wikidata, where you can give the, you know, the name for it, a description for it in Greek and English and French and Italian and every other language. You can say what it is, and there's a Wikidata item for a Choregic monument, as well as archaeological site. You can say, you know, what year it was. You can even put in Wikidata the text of the inscription if you want to. That's a lot of work. I don't recommend it unless you're really fixated on the site. But with good coordinates, and this, I'm proud of the fact that it has two locations because the superstructure is inside the gate. You know, it's built into it. And then identifiers of various kinds and links to the Wikipedia, and in this case, links to one not very good picture, but we can populate the Wikimedia universe with better pictures. Okay, this is going back to Dipylon. Each of these dots is one of the sites that Dipylon mapped in Mapping Ancient Athens. And if you go to that, if you do a Wikidata query, you can generate that map, click on one of those dots. It will pull up the details along with the link to Mapping Ancient Athens, which you click on to be taken to the site. And we'll turn that into an app at some point. And then here's the ephorates, just to prove that I did it. Okay, and then we get to Chronique de Fouilles, which is, again, a brave, brilliant, beautiful work. And every once in a while, I come and talk to Katerina Vora just to thank her, and I will say, you should move this dot over there slightly. But the one thing I would say about Chronique de Fouilles is that at the moment, it's handicapped because there are not standard identities for excavations. Every excavation should have its own Wikidata ID. It turns out they have the archaeological, archaeological methodology. Maybe that's a better ID, but anyway, there are identifications that can be used to make the topography much clearer. And I would say that every site, again, should serialize more of its data to make it easier to export as either a CSV table or JSON. Anyway, their Chronique de Fouille is trying to standardize names. It needs help from everybody because the names have never been standardized and no one can do it unilaterally, but it needs to be done. And also creating more public points of entry to their work. Through Wikidata, I mean, ToposText, most of my places now have some fiche from Chronique. Usually not the latest one because I did it a long time ago, but working to improve that. And now I think if I understood the data structure of Chronique de Fouille better, I could have automated more of that. But anyway, down the road that will happen. Okay, we saw the explication of the archaeological methodology. I mean, it is an amazing resource. I'm so happy it exists, and I have been playing with it it's many, many hours of happiness. Okay, now my complaints. The PDF format of each of these faculi it's heavy and it's slow, and it's not really necessary. It dates back to an old-fashioned view that if you put data out there, someone might steal it. And we want people to steal our data because it's good data and it's public data and it's necessary data. So, down the road, you can reconsider generating HTML pages, I think. I would consolidate more information into a single view. That is the geodata and the description. There's no reason you can't see them at the same time. It has ugly URLs. That is, they're too large. It would be better if there were something simpler. And maybe there is, and I just don't understand it yet. And I hope I know that will be fixed at some point in the future. But the simple, easy to remember, permanent URLs is the crucial thing. And obviously, as someone who believes that every site and every monument in the Timatoloyu deserves a Wikidata object identity at some point, it would be really good to have a very basic serialization, either a KML file or a CSV table, just a representative coordinate pair, the official name and the link. And with that, one can point the whole world at the official page for each site in Greece. And that's what we want. You created this thing with great labor, and people should be going to it first thing, not finding it by accident. And again, just to make a nationalist sounding note, I've discovered that a number of archaeological sites in northern Greece, some Bulgarian has very diligently turned them into Wikipedia articles, but they don't exist in Greek Wikipedia, and they should. I mean, just copy some of this information, turn it into Wikipedia, Wikidata. I mean, if it's in Bulgarian Wikipedia, it's already a Wikidata item. If it didn't have an English label, I gave it an English label, but I haven't always been able to give it a Greek label. So do that. Fill in that work for me, please. Okay, now we get to the National Archive of Monuments, which is, again, an amazing resource, but it's been designed as an internal resource, not as an external resource. And we need it as something that's shared. We need the find spots. We need the inventory number. We need to know if it's on display or not. It would be lovely to have the bibliography too, but that's a lot of work. But more information shared needs to be done because we want to link directly to the artifact in its official location, and its official location is the National Archive Monument. We can't do that the way the site is designed now. So anyway, anyone who can do something about that, please, I hope you will. Okay. What is everybody's duty? I mean, the first duty is data permanence. You know, a structure, institutional structure that sees a digital project as a gift to humanity forever. And with permanent URLs, a long-term data management, and a philosophy that links data to make sure that there's as much, what's the word, overlap as possible to protect it. Governments can do things that individuals like me certainly cannot. They have, you know, they have the scale, the structure, the rigor. They last. But they also need to understand that to be used, data needs to be shared, and that means making easy certain basic parts of the data need to be shareable in bulk. And I am convinced morally that the idea that you can hide archaeological sites from looters by not publishing information, and that's nonsense. I've walked on so many hillsides in Greece and found so many holes in the ground because the looters know as well as the archaeologists do, because that's their livelihood. It's the only one who can guard these sites is the public by caring about their own history and saying, wait a minute, why are you driving that pickup truck on that hill? I'm going to call the police. And you know, that culture does not exist yet, but we can build it. We need to build it. So obviously, everyone who digs a hole, make a Wikidata item for it. I mean, every excavation properly labeled with coordinates that allow people to find it. I would love to have a Wikidata item for everything interesting that you discover in your excavation. That's a little much to ask, but every statue base that has the name of a sculptor on it, that's a Wikidata item. Every statue that's Aphrodite, I mean, that's a Wikidata item. If you have things that can be linked to each other spatially, chronologically, in terms of persons, in terms of history, you should make those links possible. And I also want every little chapel in the Greek countryside a Wikidata item, and that can only be done by the local community. Ideally, the local Likio puts the students to work. Here, spend 3 hours and chronicle our community. Do that, and Greece will have been enriched immeasurably. Anyway, so thank you very much